this is Joel Player here, and today, welcome to my podcast. Today's episode is the first one, so I'll be talking about Thomas and Friends ideals and AUs, and I'm not going to ranking all of these. I'm going to tell my alternate universe of Thomas and Friends. So, to start, Thomas and Friends in the Railway series has a lot of characters, so in this case, I'll just cover up the 7 main engines. In this episode, however, we have a guest here. Let's see outside how he is. Alright, everybody, this is... Now, the guest we will have is him, the Sodor Mails number 6, and one of the main engines of the mail. A saddle tank engine from the GWR, one of his survivings of his class. Presenting to you, Percy, the small engine.
Hello, John. It's good being on your podcast. So let's start your ideal of Thomas and Friends.
Percy, there's something wrong. Wait a minute. I'll be right back.
Much better. Now let's start this.
Great. So now, let's start with the number 1 engine of Sodor. Here we go. Basically, Thomas was an A2 when I was younger, a little bit like a few months ago, but then, since I can do whatever I want in my alternate universe, I decided to change Thomas's bases because the E2s were larger. And so I come up with the Furnace Railway G5. So, yeah, story goes same. However, Thomas don't have the Furnace Railway red color, just like Edward. And here it is out. Thomas was actually painted on pink when he was built, just like in The Adventure Begins, where his second coat before blue was pink. And of course, when Thomas arrived on Sodor, he was painted on blue and have extended tanks. And so, story goes same and everything is history. And this is my alternate universe on number 1 of the Northwestern Railway, Thomas Theodore. Now let's go to number 6 of Sodor. Percy, you say, everyone, about Percy. His TVS version is not compatible with the Trojan class, and so Percy is still an alongside Trojan engine. I'm just going to change his boiler, and of course, Percy's not number 1340 or 1338, which has a bell, and instead, Percy is going to be 1350, just like some Thomas and Friends consider him. And the story goes same, and Percy still has his GWR livery, and he still does the mail, and I don't change most of the thing. And Percy still has his bell, but no, it's not in the cab or in the front like an American engine. And of course, Percy has a small bell behind his cab, and everything is history. And Percy still has the same gender and number. And this is my alternate universe on Northwestern Railway number 6, Percival Avonside. Alright, I'll be covering up both Edward and James at the same time. Let me tell you, Edward, when he was built, he had the same cab as a K2. The only difference on him was that he has a Fowler tender. Till he stayed with that tender to the day he was built until 1925, when James has his crash, and he and Edward were going to be both overhauled. And so, Edward and James swapped cabs. Edward stayed with James's cab and his tender, which wasn't a Fowler, and James stayed with Edward's cab, which was a K2 cab, and of course, James stayed with Edward's tender. And here is Edward before the overhaul, his past version. And this is my take on Northwestern Railway's number 2 Edward Fletcher. Now let's move on to number 5. James, on the other hand, when he was built, he had the same cap as Edward had in the TV series. When he was built, he was a prototype. His cap had 2 windows, two in the side, 2 in the other. Like 1 in the left, 1 in the right. And he had the same tender as his brothers and sisters. And of course, he have wooden brakes. And after his crash on Thomas in the Breakdown Tree, he was overhauled, swapping cabin tender with Edward. And this is my take on NWR's number 5, James Hughes, I think. Here is his version before, painted on black, and here is the version after the overhaul in 1925, with Edward's K2 cab and Edward's Fowler tender, now belonging to James. And here are before their overhaul versions. James with this same cab Edward had in the TV series, which the K2s doesn't have, his tender, and Edward's Fowler tender and his K2 cab. And here is the overhaul of 1925 to the days of today. So everyone, let's move to number 3. Henry, on the other hand, he is different from the other ones. He is still a LMS Black 5. The only difference is that he is going to have a black running board, the same type of face my engines have, and of course, he is not going to have splashers because the LMS engines, most of them don't have, especially the Black 5s. The only difference is Henry's old shape. Basically, Audrey wrote that Henry is a mix between an A1 and C1, and when I was looking for sprites of Thomas and Friends by James Fan 1991, one of his latest sprites was Henry being numbered 1470, which is the same number as GNR Grey Norton. And so I removed the number from the cabin at Henry's face. And of course, in that time when his first trial, he was named the Grey Norton Catastrophe, and in 1935, he was rebuilt into a Black 5. Here is Henry before he was overhauled, and here is after his overhaul. And story goes same. And this is my take on Henry Ivat Stanier, before known as Henry Ivat Grassley. The Flying Kippers number 3, and Northwestern Railways number 3, of course. My take on Gordon is not that too complicated. He is still an A1, A3 Pacific. The only thing is that when he was built, he had the same running board as his brothers and sisters, and he mostly wasn't that overhauled. And he stayed with that running board to the days today, and everything is history. The only difference is that in 2025 and in some occasions and events, he gave to Gordon his water tender. And Gordon is still retired and was replaced by Pip and Emma, just like in the Railway series. And basically, this is my take on NWR's number 4, Gordon Grassley. Or Gordon Nigel Grassley. Toby is still a J78 trim, and he have 2 abandoned branch lines. The one of the TV series is still open in the days of today and was discovered by Oliver in season 5. The one in the Railway series was discovered. The only difference is that Toby's too taller than a J70, so I'm going to use this van and add Toby's front with the face and the lamp, his side with the cow catcher and his number 7, and the front. And I'm going to use place from his branch line with Henrietta and add Toby on it. And add another one, but with Toby's blue cow catchers and side plates. Nothing else change on Toby's history. And his story is still the same. And this is my take on NWR's number 7, Tobias Holden. And this was the take on the 7 main engines of the island of Sodor: Thomas, Edward, Henry, Gordon, and James and Percy. Subscribe to the channel and see you next episode. Have a great day. Type in the comments, what should I do on episode 2, or what should I do on the second part of my alternate universe of Thomas.